Why Putin keeps dogs? You never knew. In the corridors of power, where conversations are calculated and gestures are measured, the presence of a dog might seem out of place. Yet, in the life of Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, the dogs that padded alongside him often told as much of a story as the words he spoke. They were not just pets, they were symbols, companions, and sometimes even instruments of diplomacy. Coney, the Black Labrador. It began in the early years of his presidency. In 2000, Russia's newly minted leader was presented with a Black Labrador puppy by Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister. The dog was named Coney. Coney was not a hidden, private pet. She became a fixture of Putin's life. She followed him into meetings, even those with generals and heads of state. While advisors shuffled papers and exchanged stiff formalities, Coney might stretch lazily across the carpet, her paws extended in regal disinterest. For many Russians, those images softened the stern face of their leader. Putin would often joke about her. "Coney is cleverer than many people I know," he once quipped. Russians saw not just a president, but a man who could kneel down to scratch behind a dog's ears. For a leader often cast in the mold of an unyielding strongman, Coney offered a glimpse of warmth. The gift of Buffy by 2010, Putin's affection for dogs was no secret abroad. When Bulgaria sought to strengthen ties with Moscow, its officials arrived with an unusual gift, a fluffy Karakachan puppy, a traditional Bulgarian shepherd breed. Putin accepted with a smile and later revealed the name chosen for the pup, Buffy. The choice of such a present was deliberate. To give Putin a dog was to honor something personal, to acknowledge a vulnerability. It was a gesture aimed at friendship beyond politics. Buffy grew up in the Russian leader's household, joining Coney in the spotlight. While Coney exuded the calm wisdom of an old guardian, Buffy embodied youthful energy. For television cameras, the image was irresistible, the stern president flanked by playful dogs. A diplomatic gesture from Japan 2 years later. In 2012, Japan struggling to maintain delicate relations with Russia over the disputed Kuril Islands sent an Akita Inu puppy as a thank you for Russian aid following the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami. Putin named her Yum, meaning dream. The Akita is a proud, noble breed in Japanese culture, a symbol of loyalty and resilience. When Yum appeared alongside Putin, journalists noted how protective she seemed, barking loudly at approaching reporters. Putin chuckled at the scene, remarking that Yum was fulfilling her duty as a watchdog. Once again, the dog was more than an animal, it was diplomacy on 4 legs, a living reminder of ties between two nations. Verny. Loyalty from Turkmenistan. On Putin's 65th birthday in 2017, Turkmenistan's President Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow presented him with a shaggy Central Asian shepherd puppy. Putin cradled the pup awkwardly during the ceremony, then introduced him to the Russian public with the name Verny, meaning loyal. The symbolism was almost neat. A leader who often demanded loyalty from his people now had a dog whose very name embodied that quality. Verny would grow into a massive, muscular guardian, perfectly fitting the image of strength and devotion that the Kremlin cultivated around its leader. Dogs as diplomacy and power. Across these years, a pattern emerged. Putin's dogs were not accidental companions. They were reflections of political relationships. Each gift carried meaning, a message wrapped in fur. A Bulgarian shepherd symbolized solidarity from Sofia. A Japanese Akita conveyed gratitude and resilience. A Turkmen shepherd embodied Central Asian brotherhood. But sometimes the presence of a dog took on a sharper edge. In 2007, during a meeting with German Chancellor Angela Merkel in Sochi, Putin allowed Coney to wander freely. Merkel, who had once been bitten by a dog as a child, was visibly uncomfortable. Observers debated the moment endlessly. Was it a calculated show of dominance? A subtle reminder that Putin held the upper hand? Or was it simply a coincidence, the natural behavior of a man fond of his pet? The ambiguity itself was telling. In Putin's world, even a dog could be part of the performance of power. A softer image still, beyond politics, Putin's affection seemed genuine. He often spoke warmly of his pets, describing their loyalty and intelligence. Russian state media leaned into these moments, broadcasting images of the president playing with his dogs, tossing snowballs, or feeding them treats. In a society where power often felt distant and untouchable, such scenes mattered. They presented Putin not only as commander-in-chief, but as a man with a home, a hearth, and creatures who loved him unconditionally. In a land where dogs had long been seen as guardians and companions, the symbolism resonated deeply. Man and myth, and yet, the story of Putin and his dogs cannot be told without acknowledging the myth-making that surrounded it. Every appearance of Coney, Buffy, Hume, or Verne was carefully photographed, often staged. The Kremlin understood the value of these images. A dog at Putin's side softened his iron visage, made him approachable, even lovable. But the myth also contained echoes of control. Putin, the master, commanded loyalty from all around him, whether ministers, citizens, or the animals at his feet. The dogs symbolized faithfulness, but they also underscored hierarchy. They were loyal to him, and through them, a narrative of devotion was projected to the public, beyond politics. Still, away from the cameras, one imagines quieter moments. Putin in his residence, tossing a ball across the floor, a Labrador padding after it. Or perhaps a shepherd pup curling at his feet after a long day. For all the symbolism, dogs are dogs. They do not care for geopolitics or power plays. They love, they guard, they remain faithful. And perhaps in those private moments, Putin found something beyond politics, a companionship that reminded him of simpler truths, a bond that asked nothing in return but affection. Epilogue. The leader and his pack from Coney to Verne, the dogs of Vladimir Putin, tell a story that is at once personal and political. They are tokens of diplomacy, symbols of loyalty, instruments of image-making. But they are also companions, living beings that shared his space and his time. In the end, Putin's dogs reflect the paradox of the man himself, both calculating and affectionate, both coldly strategic and quietly human. In the wag of a tail, in the bark that startled reporters, in the calm presence of a Labrador at his side during meetings of state, the dogs revealed something rarely seen in politics and intimacy that, for once, could not be faked.